Hi there, folks. It's Jonathan Denwood here from WP-Tonic. And in this video, have you got a WordPress website that always seems to be breaking? You're getting a bit frustrated with it. In the trade, it's called a Frankenstein site. I've got a ton of experience at WP-Tonic to share with you to avoid this type of website. If you follow my advice, it's going to be quite simple to avoid it. I'll be back in a few moments, folks. So, folks, you've got a website. It seems to be running slower and slower and slower, and it's getting a bit flaky. You know, when you log into the back end, you never know if you save a blog post or you do some update and try and save it. Will it save it? And it's just getting a bit flaky and a bit frustrating. And you love WordPress, but you don't love this situation. Now, with some common sense things that I'm going to share with you in this video, I'm 100% sure that you can avoid this situation. But we've all done this in the past. I've been hosting and working with WordPress over 15 years now, and I've seen it all. And this video is about giving you some advice so you can avoid the Frankenstein site. Now, number one, have you got decent hosting? And that's a balance between performance and support. And support is a difficult subject when you're dealing with a hosting provider, because they can't rebuild your website. They can't spend 10 hours investigating a particular plugin. But on the other hand, there are certain things, you know, when your site gets to a certain size, you might need a higher plan, because it's just utilizing a lot of resources depending on what type of website you've got. If you've got a small service business in your town or city, that should never happen really, unless you've put on for some reason some specific plugin. But if you've got e-commerce, you've got WooCommerce and you're getting more successful, or you're into membership, or you're utilizing WordPress for a lot of email and marketing automation needs, you're probably going to need better hosting at some stage. So be aware of that. Now, the other factor that really, really does affect the performance is, did you do some basic research on the plugins that you're installing on your live website? Did you know some trusted resources? And one of those resources should be your hosting provider. At WP-Tonic, we require people to ask us to install plugins for them. And we love people asking, you know, what would you advise us to do this particular thing? We're looking at these two plugins. What do you think? And we're always available to give that type of advice, because installing the wrong mixture of plugins will affect drastically the performance of your website. Some people say if it's a commercial website, you should really only look at premier plugins that you have to pay a fee for. I wouldn't push it that far, but what a lot of people do is they look at a certain group of plugins that does a similar thing, and they install one, try it out a little while, then they install a second plugin in that does a similar thing. They use it, they uninstall it, or they put a third one on, or they don't uninstall them, or they don't deactivate them. They've got all three plugins doing the same thing on their website. This will really start to affect the database of WordPress if you keep installing multiple plugins on your live website. Now, you can get a setup where you can run a kind of virtual test environment on your desktop. There's a couple of free setups, and they're really easy to set up on your desktop, where you can try out everything to your heart's content and not try them out on your live website. Or WP-Tonic is one of these. We can provide a staging site where you can install these plugins to your heart's content. And if it starts getting really slow, we can remove it for you and get a new staging site set up. It is not a good idea to utilize your live website as a test website, installing plugin after plugin. Now, another factor in this is how many plugins are you installing? There is no finite answer to this because, but when you go to a website and you see 50, 60, 70, 100 plugins on a website, I personally think that's too many. Um, I think in depending on what you're running, it's not impossible to get there. But if you've got more than 50 plugins on your website, or depending on what you're running, you're probably going to have to look at bigger hosting to support all these plugins, everything that you've got installed and running. You know, if you've got Lifter LMS running or BuddyBoss, and then you've got WooCommerce running, and then you've got Fluent CRM or WP Funnels, and these are big plugins that do a ton of work for you, and they're fantastic value, but they're going to take a lot of resources up, folks. So your lower type hosting ain't going to hack it, and you're going to end up with a very flaky, poor performing website. So yes, you've got all the flexibility and you've got all the control and owning your intellectual property, all the benefits that you get with WordPress. But with great power comes great responsibility. So try and stop yourself from keeping installing plugin after plugin after plugin. Another factor that affects WordPress is what page builder you're going to utilize. We're in the final third of 2025. I can't believe where it's gone. And there's some great page builders out there, but there's also some that are not so great, and they will affect the performance of your website drastically in some, especially when it comes to mobile. If people are viewing your website and you know the majority of people that are visiting your website are viewing it on mobile devices on their phone, the page builder that you choose will have a drastic effect on the performance of your website on mobile. And choosing the wrong page builder, you might have to get a bigger hosting plan to actually compensate the performance here of the page builder that you chose. Now, I think there's three clear choices now out there, or there could be four, but the fourth one, I have some reservations around mobile performance, but I do know that they are attempting to improve the situation as we speak, and they might have done that. But I think that you should be looking at a Gutenberg page builder, but the third one I'm going to recommend isn't. Um, the two that I really like that are based on Gutenberg technology is Cadence WP and GeneratePress. I think both of those provide a lot of power and performance. And if you're just a mere mortal, you're going to be happy with it. You'll be able to build your website. They've both got extensive libraries of starter websites. They've got a well organized interface and they're fast on a setup that gives them a chance to be fast. And they're also going to be quick on mobile. A non-Gutenberg is Bricks. Now, Bricks is more for the kind of quasar designer, um, a small agency owner, medium-sized agency owner. I think if you're a enthusiast or you love WordPress, I think as a tool it's a little bit too advanced. And the final one is Elementor. Now, very popular, runs a lot of websites. It also has quite a complicated interface, in my opinion, but some people like it more than the Gutenberg-based page builders. But the main thing is it had a notorious reputation for being slow on mobile, and you could get over it by getting a larger hosting plan. You know, you had to spend a bit more money on the hosting plan and be a bit more aware of Elementor affecting your mobile performance. And if you were aware of this, you could overcome it. They've done a lot of work recently improving that situation, but I still feel that you would be better off with a Gutenberg-based third-party solution myself. There's a lot more I could say, but I don't like making these videos really too long. I've written an article that goes into this in a lot more detail. You find the link in the video description. Also, if you want a one-to-one consultation with me, that's totally free. You find the link also in the show notes, and it's right on the home page of the WP-Tonic website. You find all those links, like I say, in the show notes. Plus, if you found this video helpful, think about giving me a thumbs up and subscribing to the channel, because that really does show YouTube that I'm doing something right, and it's a win-win for both of us because it encourages me to make more of these videos. I'll see you soon, folks. Bye.